And welcome back, folks, to another edition of Steady Dropping Dimes. This is where the crew comes together. The crew that I watch grow up. I watched them go from boys to men. Now they are seasoned analysts. Like it's just not, they don't just show up and just start talking. Like, Devin is doing his thing on Fox, doing his thing, still coaching. Young go getters, but Elite 11. We'll get into that experience as well. So he's not just a talking head. He's an informed analysis or an informed analyst. And same thing with Daniel Horton, because we're going to be talking about basketball coaches today. Like a lot of these dudes show up and they just talk about, oh, this coach, he's not an X's and O's guy. Or this coach, he all he does is run sets without having any real sort of baseline, any real information or film study to base that on.
Who are you attacking?
I'm
Because
not
usually you attacking somebody. I'm just saying who gave you the whole no baseline, no rhyme, no reason, just saying stuff. Who's the talking head that you might be speaking of on the basketball side?
Why can't I just give my guys some I like to
Daniel, can he be trusted?
I like to highlight the expertise
I don't know yet.
of my guy. Wait,
I went through a whole year of him trying to get me and somebody else fired. Actually 3 years. How many years was it, Sam?
I never tried to get you fired. I was always trying to get you promoted. Because when you do well, we do well, right? I wasn't trying to get you fired. But no, man, I like to, listen, I think people know by now y'all are resources for me. I reach out to y'all to solicit y'all opinions because I know they're important. I know you aren't players who just rely on the fact that I'm a player. So I know everything. Like you go and study your craft too. And that is, I think, one of the things that makes this really unique, makes you guys really unique, is you don't just rest on your laurels. You put in the work as well to be informed in your analysis. So I like to highlight that and give you kudos for that.
Appreciate that.
And that's the same thing that our proud sponsors of Steady Dropping Dimes over at Destination Ann Arbor do. They saw the vision and they said, we know this is going to be something. And man, if you look at the numbers, like last week, we thought it was crazy, Daniel, when we were on a couple weeks ago, and we popped on at 6 o'clock, and there were 2,500 people.
That's because I had a tank top on.
Right? No, well, so
they said they came to see the gun show. One person got on and said, "Oh, everybody, come on in, because Devin out here with the tank on."
Right,
and Daniel, whose side are you on? Talking about I got the baby doo-doo tank. Whose side are you on, Daniel? Stop talking junk about me when we on the ding, but in the chat.
Hey, so listen. I shouldn't say this because the dude, he's just gonna take it, it's gonna blow his head up even more. But then Devin came back on last week and we had over 5,000 people on the live.
It was the tank top. I'm telling you. It was like, that boy been working out. I have been working out. I'm telling you, college version of me is coming back. Stay tuned.
Hey, so listen.
Stay tuned.
Okay. So let's put it down. So listen, we did the Mayan Arbor. So it is finally in the final stages of editing. Like literally, Lance is putting the finishing touches on it. I'm gonna review it tonight. It'll probably release tomorrow. So since you've been working out, Devin Gardner, former 5-star quarterback, right?
Almost there, baby.
GQ smooth, right?
Yes, indeed.
All right. So since you're doing that, my guys over at Mission Elite Fitness in Saline, Michigan. All right. My guy, Mark Phillips, outstanding trainer, puts it down. His co-owner, Joe, they do a great job over at Mission Elite. I've been telling them about Steady Dropping Dimes. We go around Washtenaw County. And they were like, okay, well, y'all want to drop by Mission Elite? I was like, oh, man, these are world-class athletes. These are all
disclaimer. Me and Daniel ain't running nowhere. We can lift. We can do that. We ain't running. We're not running. We're not doing treadmill.
Hold up. Why are you speaking for Daniel?
Because I know how he feels.
He's absolutely right.
Thank you. Ain't nobody doing no treadmill. What am I doing?
He's absolutely right.
Oh, listen.
We'll get on them weights a little bit, do our thing. We ain't doing no treadmill.
Hey, I'll tour the snack bar.
Hey, he said we'll put y'all through a little workout over here at Mission Elite to show how we get down. So
I'm down.
The next Mayan Arbor tour with their Steady Droppin Dimes crew. Yeah, we're gonna stop over there. All right. But listen, the folks at Destination Ann Arbor, like I said, they saw the vision. And when it comes to great ideas and concepts, this was an outstanding when they said, listen, we are the local tourism bureau. We are your tour guides to all things Washtenaw County. Whether you live here and think you know about all the things that are offered in this area, or you visit here and you're looking for things to do other than just come to town and go to a game, guess what? You can check out Destination Ann Arbor, find out the places to go, places to stay, places to eat, events coming to town. They are your doorstep to all things Washtenaw County. So great resource. And they said, hey, we'll connect with you guys, the Steady Dropping Dimes, esteemed former athletes like Devin and Daniel. We can use you guys to show people around Washtenaw County. And same thing with current student athletes. So, of course, they signed Will on as an ambassador, Will Johnson, who took us on a tour of his favorite places in Washtenaw County. We'll have more student athletes coming up. Great concept. Avid supporters and ardent supporters of NIL initiatives at the University of Michigan. Our friends at Destination Ann Arbor really, really get it. So we'll tell you more about them as we get deeper into this episode. But now it is time, as we have exchanged pleasantries now, to begin the show to talk about an unpleasant topic.
Ooh, it's coming. I ain't gonna be that slender now,
man.
But it's gonna be like a bigger, beefier version of that. Hey, but I was pretty ripped. You know what I mean?
Why are you giving this dude a vanity play? I'm trying to change the subject.
We was talking about the next Mayan Arbor tour and how I'm gonna go, and you was talking about how premier athletes you was.
I already ripped.
And this is Youngberg. This is before I even start really getting, you know what I mean? I'm just saying.
I have already started switching gears. All right. So Juwan gets fired last week. Dismissed, fired, let go. We had a discussion about what that one-on-one would be like. And what the premise would be for me. I'll let you guys kind of reflect upon, what you had to say. But to me, it was going to come down to, if I sit down with you, Juwan, and I'm looking at everything that I think is wrong or went wrong, I want to hear from you what you think went wrong. And I want you to give me honest introspection. And I want you to explain to me how you're going to apply fixes to those things. And if it wound up being a more simplistic explanation, like I said, if you came in telling me it's just a heart condition, I'm probably gonna be like, hey man, we got to be out. Or if you came in telling me, hey, it's just gonna be get this new recruiting class in, we got to be out. Or if you came in just telling me, hey, admissions are a problem, we got to be out. Or if you came in and just talking about NIL, got to be out. And so from what I understand, Daniel, in the one-on-one from my sources, is very much about NIL. And while that is certainly, we discussed it, there's certainly a hurdle for any coach, whether it's Juwan Howard or any coach coming in here. That's going to be a hurdle for them. Yeah. But that couldn't be the only thing you talked about, or even the biggest thing you talked about. And it sounds like that was the case.
Yeah, no, it's if that was what he led with, then he went in with he was doomed from the beginning, right? You can't. With the myriad of issues just by the article that was released about the basketball program, it hints at accountability and culture issues. So if you go in and you lead with, hey, NIL is our biggest issue, then you're kind of like ignoring the elephant in the room. Hey man, what about these major issues that you're having in your program, in your locker room, amongst your staff first? What about those though? I don't care how much money we dump, we're not going to dump money into something where there's issues and problems, right? You have to show us that these things are going to be fixed or these things are going to be right. And then maybe people will invest in the program or invest in your vision of the program. And I think, NIL is just a small piece of that. You have to have the right culture, right members of the program, from all the things that we've seen and heard as fans of the program. Like, you want people that are going to represent the program the right way. And by all accounts, they were coming up a little bit short in all of those areas. So you can't just come in and focus on one thing.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man, and especially when it's a former player, one that is adored. I mean, look, man, Fab Five, to me, that was, I mean, as much as I love there's so much about Michigan that I grew up loving, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know that I felt more connected to any team than I felt connected to the Fab Five, right? So it's a deep, it's like crushing to see it not work out, and at the same time, you get it, like
Yeah.
it can't be a person. It can't be about what's best for Juwan.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be what I want to see if I'm War Manual. It's got to be what's best for the program.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel like all those boxes aren't checked, then you got to do what's best for the program, Mr. Gardner, as painful as that might be.
Yeah, it's a tough thing because, like you said, I love seeing Juwan Howard be able to come back after the 5-5, all those different things. He even is in my belief, a big part of the reason why you were able to get everybody back once the ban was kind of lifted. And even Chris Webb, Webb came back, and to see that kind of unity and different things like that, and knowing that Juwan was the reason and he had some early success, it's like you always want to get inside his head, everybody's head, inside the program and figure out where did it go wrong? Like, what is the one thing is like, hey, if you get a little bit of a redo, what do you do differently? Right. And I'm sure there are certain things that you would. I think that it's a multitude of issues that kind of went through. And I think the NIL is one of them, right? In this age, you can't win without good players, period. I don't care how many schemes you have. I don't care how good your culture is. You can't win without good players. And I'm not talking about good players like, oh, he can play a little. I'm talking about players that can make a difference in the game. Remember when Michigan was so good with Coach Beeline, he had to alter the way he coaches because he had a star in Trey Burke, right? He had a star, right? And he had players that complimented Trey Burke well. So as much as it, the culture and all those different things, that is a big part. But being able to secure top talent is also a huge part. And in today's age, without money, especially for basketball players that think they're going one and done, you're not doing it. I'm sorry, you're just not doing it.
Yeah, it's a great point.
And to your point, Devin, with the talent, with the Jimmys and Joes versus X's and O's debate, right? That team that you mentioned with Trey Burke, they didn't lose because Kentucky out X and O them. They lost because the kid hit a three from the timeline. They had nothing to do with X's and O's, right? Then they lost.
Also, what about Michigan on the other side? We didn't beat beat Kansas because we just out X and O. We beat Kansas because we hit it from the timeline.
Because we hit a 40-footer, right? Yeah. So it's all those things like you don't have. It's not necessarily. It doesn't always come down to X. You want a coach that runs good stuff, right? And we'll get into that, Sam. I know in a second, but you got to have players, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You cannot lose Hunter Dickinson for money. You can't. I mean, that is absolutely from the Michigan side of things. So this is, in fairness to Juwan, that's a legit gripe. Like, you can't have your best player leave purely for money.
Right.
And you can't be in position to compliment him. We talked about Ray J. Dennison. This is one of the great things about the tournament. Like, so it's tough when you don't have your team isn't in it and you don't necessarily have as much of a rooting interest. But I think it'll be very interesting for Michigan fans because a lot of coaches that are in the rotation as far as consideration are concerned are coaching in the tournament. So it makes watching the Kansas State in the NIT last night makes that really interesting, right? It makes watching Colorado State when they took on Virginia last night makes that really interesting. Like, who's not going to be watching FAU and who's not going to be watching all the Grand Canyon? Who's not going to be watching these teams that, you got coaches that Michigan is really kind of taking a look at. Yeah. And then to see players that they are like, you watch Baylor and you watch Ray J. Dennis, it's like, man, that dude was like legit supposed to be on Michigan squad and you lost him because of money. Like, you have got to be able to get the guys that are attainable where it's not like, you gotta be just, bidding war to the moon. These are guys that if you just are in the ball, I'll give you a perfect example on the football side of things. I have very little doubt, and we won't get into numbers, but tell me if you agree with this, Devin. The guys that Michigan was able to lock up and retain, the collectives came with some outstanding numbers. Like numbers that make it so I don't feel like I'm taking a short. I'm being shorted if I don't go out here on the open market. Like
the word is I don't feel like I'm being disrespected.
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm being disrespected. Like I'm whole here. But if those same guys, I would charge you. I bet you if they went on the open market, they could get more. They get more on the open market. But you made it so it wasn't just this disrespectful offer. And when you combine that with coaches they want to be around and great culture, you don't have to outbid Ole Miss and Alabama to keep your guys. You just got to make sure that you're not disrespectful.
Yeah.
And then all the other elements are there. That's the lane that you got to live in basketball too. If you got all the other pieces, you don't necessarily have to outbid Kansas.
Yeah.
You just can't disrespect your guys.
Right.
Basketball needs to get to that point.
Sam, I think you're exactly right. And it's just like in business, when you have a workplace that you enjoy and you know it's some known knowns, right? You know your boss, you know what your work days like, you know what your weeks are like, and all these different things. And somebody's offered you a better deal, right? A better offer with some unknown knowns, right? Some things you don't know, but it's better if not necessarily match, right? Where you are. If you get close to whatever that next place is offering, most sane people, because they understand like the feeling of being comfortable in their position, they're going to stay, right? They're going to stay and enjoy the fruits of the labor that they built up at that one place, as long as it's not a kind of a disrespect factor, right? They can't offer double what you're offering. Now I have to go. I'm sorry. I like it here. I love the people. I've got to go. You know what I mean? So I think that's the same thing of like you hit it on the head, Sam. You don't have to outbid some of these teams, especially people who have already been here. Now, when you're trying to get guys to come and they have some unknowns about the Michigan program, I get it. However, guys that are already here, like a Hunter Dickinson, if you get close to whatever number it is, I think he stays, right? He enjoys it, all these different things. He's going to be a focal point of the offense. I just think that you have to compete, right? You have to compete. You can't just let guys come in and poach your talent and just take them away.
Yeah, and so this is an interesting aside. Before we get to the X's and O's conversation, Daniel, I think as you look for the next guy, one of the things is you look at Juwan, you could talk about a myriad of things, and I want to take a moment to shout out Phil Martelli, because the dude came on my morning show this morning, and I was surprised, but I wasn't. Like, because I've never had a coach who's been a part of, who got fired or been a part of a staff who was fired, who came on to talk about it publicly. I talk to all these guys after it happens, right? But not in an interview. And man, when I got the text saying he coming on the show, I was like, what? But he came on, man, and we talked about some things. He was as honest as he could be publicly, but you could tell that there are some things that he spoke to as honestly as he could publicly, like the number of close games that they lost. It was a lot of them. You can't lose that many close games and it not be like, what are we doing? Why are we losing all these close games so consistently, right? Is there something from a coaching perspective that we aren't doing? Like you got to address that when you have, players, whether it's academic ineligibility or, locker room strife or strife with coaches. When you have things like that, what is that? What does that come from? When you have staff strife that not only happens, but becomes public. Because I said this morning, and I will say it here. Man, Michigan football has staff strife. You ain't hear about it. You ain't hear about it, right? I mean, all these staffs have strife. And they had serious, hey, you know what?
Just like in a company in a business, you don't like everybody you work with.
You don't like everybody you work with, right? But the culture in the program and the culture in the staff was such that
Daniel don't like me, but y'all wouldn't know. So no, go ahead.
but it didn't.
Or maybe y'all would, because you're always talking crazy in the chat.
Right. It didn't affect how the football staff worked together. It didn't bleed over to the players. It didn't affect the team. Right. That's how great cultured programs work. When something happens on a practice court and it becomes public, to me, it's not, the issue isn't that there was an argument in practice. The issue is that it became public. That's That's saying everything about what's
But
wrong.
it's only one of those parties went public where the newspaper got his side of the story. The everybody else got their side of the story. It's one thing with this. It's this thing with Michigan basketball where we become like not only are there egos involved, but the fans place names at such a high pedestal that when one person does something, when two people are involved in a situation, the person that they're the most beloved of the situation, they're gonna receive the benefit of the doubt, right? No matter how wrong they are, right? So now when this person gets into this situation, instead of realizing that they're wrong because they have an ego, because their name has been chanted by the masses for 10 to 15 years, they've been heralded such great at their job. Now all of a sudden there's no discretion, there's no anonymity, there's no not anonymity, but there's no family atmosphere to where this stays in house and say, I'm going to tell my story to somebody and they're going to relay it to the masses because I was done wrong because of my ego. Like it's a bit weird when in basketball locker rooms.
You want to know what's so disappointing to me? And like you said, like Sam said, Michigan football or any football, any team, anybody, everybody doesn't like each other. There are fights, there are different things that go on that nobody ever knows about. Maybe 15, 20 years later, hey, man, remember we had, because, you tell people and it's kind of funny and cool. But at the time, because this year, Michigan football had a lot of stuff. And we ain't talking about Connor Stallions and signs. We had a lot of stuff. We got guys get kicked off the team, had to come back. You got fights. We got people doing stuff, right? People in the dog, but nobody ever knew about that, right? Yeah. Nobody ever knew. And I think it's so impressive because you got to think about a football locker room and a basketball locker room. Basketball, 15, maybe not even 20 players, right? You got 105 plus in football. Now you got to go all the staff members in football, people around it. It's just way more. And for Michigan football to be able to keep all that stuff in-house and go win that championship, but just keep all that stuff quiet, I just think that the culture thing has to, you have to talk about it because basketball is so small, nothing should get out ever, right? Ever. You ain't letting stuff out of a 105 locker room. A 15 locker room can't be letting stuff out. No.
Mm-hmm. Hey, but let me ask you something. So I think all of this kind of speaks to, is there the same commitment to excellence for basketball it is for football at the University of Michigan? That's like the biggest question for, even when we're going to talk about hiring a coach, right? Let's be real. This coach can only be so good because they're not going to pay him more than the $5 to $6 million Jerome Moore is making, right? Has that been established at Michigan, Sam? The basketball coach will never make more money than the football coach. So let's just say Billy Donovan gets fired or Billy Donovan leaves the Chicago Bulls. His resume commands more than $5 to $6. It commands around $5 to $6 to $7 million a year as a head coach at a college program. Multiple national championships, 10 years 10 plus years as an NBA head coach, but he'll never be in the running because his salary is going to be somewhere he's going to demand close to, if not more than what Jerome Moore is making. So we're not really.
You don't think that they would do that? You don't think they would get Billy Donovan with his resume?
No. Well, listen, man. Let's. I'm not telling you how. Let me be clear when I say this. This is not how I feel about the respective programs, but we're gonna break down the dollars and cents of it.
Yeah.
All right. And the dollars and cents of it is
football is king.
Football is king, brother.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, it's the cash cow. And it's not even close when it comes to revenue that it generates. So the head of that program, from a dollars and cents, from what they generate, is going to command more. That's just
right. I understand.
That's not how I feel about the programs.
No, I understand that. But at the same time, when it comes to basketball, how much commitment to excellence are you going to have? Are you going to go out and search for the best of the best? Like you're going to go out and pay $1.5 million, $2 million for an offensive coordinator, and the basketball coach is going to be making around the same thing, $3 million. So it's like, are you going to have that same commitment to excellence? To how are you going to pay enough salary?
And let's be clear. Daniel, Sam, and I are not saying that $3 million is not a lot.
No, we're definitely not saying that.
So it's all
it's just proportional. It's one of those things. Are you going to go spend top dollar for the assistants for the new head coach at the basketball for Michigan basketball, right? So it's one of those things. And I look at the list of all the coaches that people are naming, coaches from these really small schools or these mid-major schools that have done really well and had a lot of success, proven they can coach basketball. But is that if you hiring these guys, do you have the same commitment to excellence as you have in football. And it doesn't have to be the same dollar amount, right? Because like you said, football is king and they generate millions of dollars. But at the same time, do you have that same commitment to excellence, man? Right now, I'm skeptical. It's always been that way with Michigan, right? So we got to take steps forward.
Yeah. So as you look at the next guy, though, you talk about from NIL perspective and support. If we're just talking about NIL, this next guy, and we'll get to the X's and O's piece, but they're gonna have to be very proactive when it comes to the NIL and donor engagement space. That's just the fact. It's not going to be gift wrapped for you. Right. And this is something that I think Jerome got from jump. I think it was, I think for Jim was back in town. Shout out to Jim Harbaugh, man. He had a garage sale where he was selling Michigan gear for $20 a pop. Right? He did. Shout out to Jim.
He probably made a killing though.
He probably did, man. And he couldn't have.
You gonna get Harbaugh, Warren stuff. Fans are crazy. They probably bought all of that stuff.
Yeah, and so, I think it was I think the NIL and donor engagement on the level that it needs to be done now was a process for him. I don't think he had problems sort of engaging donors from the standpoint of asking them for assistance. I think maybe his issue was everything that comes with, like what are you going to give someone who has everything monetarily, right? They want access and perks. And some coaches that can be at a place like Michigan where that's not the common practice. That's a bit of an adjustment. I think that's something that Jim warmed up to, right? I think it's something that Sharon understood from jump. He gets hired on Saturday. The Monday, he's got donors in there saying, "Hey, I need y'all to help me, protect this roster." That's your basketball coach is going to have to be very much in that same vein. I sort of, this is my impression. My impression was that Juwan was more on the Jim side of the ledger, maybe not even as much out there as Jim from a donor engagement standpoint. And this next guy is going to have to be very, very proactive in advocating in the NIL space for his program. That just comes with it. And I think that's got to be part of as you're looking for the criteria about who you hire, I think that's got to be very much a part of it too.
Hey, do you think that it was a little bit of in my opinion, earned arrogance on the part of like a Harbaugh and a Juwan Howard of like, listen, man, I shouldn't have to beg anybody, donors or what have you, for money. I bled for the program, right? I was these guys. I don't need to, because a lot of it is just they just want to get a look, a touch at Jim Harbaugh. They just want to get a look, a touch at Michigan royalty and Juwan Howard. And I think maybe those two, they didn't want to deal with that as much, right? And so for Jim Harbaugh, he almost doesn't have to, just because it's Michigan football. People are going to give and do all the things they need to do because it's Michigan football, whereas in basketball, it's just, like you said, it's not king, right? And so I think Michigan fans are perfectly fine with Michigan winning the national championship and Michigan basketball not breaking at 500. They're fine with that, right? Obviously, we want Michigan basketball to be great, and it's almost a cherry on top of a really nice sundae. You don't need that cherry, right? But it does look really nice and it's cool. And I think to Daniel's point, that's how we're kind of looking at Michigan basketball. And if we can change that, I think it could be an even more powerful machine. But to Sam's point, the dollars and the cents, football is going to get first dibs on everything that has a president that is no longer living on it. They just are. And how do you find a way, and maybe this is for Daniel, how do you find a way to get in the middle somewhere where you're not letting basketball completely fall by the wayside and find a way to kind of not even it out, but make it a little closer?
Yeah, look, I don't think it doesn't take as much. That, it doesn't take as much money. It doesn't take as many donors. But
less people.
But at the same time, the amount of effort, given all of the resources that go to football, the amount of effort is probably going to be the same for the coach to get what he needs to get, even though he's not engaged as many guys, because what the pecking order or the hierarchy is here, you got to get out there and grind for yours. This is not the same place as Louisville or Kentucky, where basketball is first, and maybe it is gift wrap
North Carolina.
And I was talking to a coach last night, and we were talking about different coaches, and he said, NIL is a big thing. He mentioned Will Wade, and I was like, yeah,
Yes, sir.
that could, hey, because he said, what NIL stands for? I said, name, image, likeness. He said, no. He said, NIL means now it's legal. That's what.
Yeah.
That's what. That's what it says. That's what it stands for, right?
And
So
go
ahead.
No, and when you get into some of these coaches that we're going to talk about, when you look at their rosters, when these coaches, I will talk about a couple of them, they have far superior rosters in what they're competing against in their leagues. You have to ask that question, like for instance, the coach at Grand Canyon has way more resources than anybody else in that league.
That's true.
So their roster is going to look better. Their players are going to be better. So that coach can pretty much go out and run whatever he wants. Bryce Drew can go out there and pretty much run whatever he wants because his team is going to be a lot more talented than every night in and night out than the teams he's playing against. When you look at USF, they have much more talent than a lot of those teams in that league, especially now that Houston is gone, right? So it's like he brought some of those guys from Kennesaw State with him. So it's one of those things where when you look at his record before he had more talent than everybody, won one game. Right.
Well, but hold on. Let's be fair to you. Talking about Amir Abdur-Rahim.
Yeah, good coach.
There was no talent, and then he recruited that talent,
and he developed it and brought him with it.
Right. He recruited that talent. The guys he has with him at USF now are guys that he developed at Kennesaw State.
Yeah, but that 1 in 26 is still on your resume, Sam.
Yeah, but that was when he first got. That's what he inherited. I mean, they were terrible when he got there, and then they doubled their win total every year. Like, I don't think that's just happenstance.
No, but I agree with you. But Sam, 1 in 26 is crazy. That's like saying that's like advocating Michigan hiring a coach that just because he's won guy has a good team now, you're ignoring him going 0 and 12 3 years ago. That'll never happen.
He went from 1 to 26.
Devin, will Michigan ever hire a coach that has an 0 and 12 record on his resume?
Come on. Bro,
I just like to say that my name is Bennett and I ain't in it.
Went from 1 in 26 to winning 26 games at that same school.
That's an amazing turnaround, Sam, but that's still on your record.
Well, so it was his first year at USF in the AAC. It was also, and who did I say a couple weeks ago when we were talking about like this dude in the chat talking about I was making excuses for Juwan. I didn't make any excuses for Juwan. Never made one excuse for Juwan. And when I talked about bringing him back I laid out a bunch of conditions. I said he'd have to meet all these conditions. If he met all these conditions, like Harbaugh did, then I would bring him back. Clearly, he didn't meet all those conditions.
Right.
For Ward Manual. So, man, stop. Don't either listen better or don't simplify my arguments. Right. So sometimes you got to address people, right? But the guy that I mentioned, even in that first conversation, I said, man, I like Dusty May. Did I not say that weeks ago? I like Dusty May. Now Dusty May is a hot guy. He's clearly a top target for Michigan. Dusty still has connections in the area. Dusty, from what I hear and talking to coaches on the site, like his wife has long held Michigan out as the dream job for her husband. I'm not saying that's going to be the be all end all, but they got some ends with Dusty. But it was FAU's first year in the AAC last year too. Now I'm saying this from the standpoint of I like Dusty. He was the guy that I picked. But if we're being fair about it, his first year in the AAC, Amir's first year in the AAC, they beat FAU, Daniel. And not only did they beat FAU, they won the AAC by 2 games.
Yeah.
And that's a good FAU team that he has. FAU beat Arizona. FAU beat Texas A&M. They went to the Final Four last year. So I'm saying all that to say, hey, man, I don't know that we could minimize anything that Amir has done at USF.
It's not minimizing, Sam. It's like you have to play like each one of these years goes on your resume. So now that he's developed the guys that he brought with him and recruited better talent, and he has his roster is more talented than the other teams in his league now. He's winning a lot of games and doing what he should do. But when he came in and his roster was either subpar or on par with everyone else's, they won 1 game, Sam.
Mm-hmm. I hear you, man.
You have to take that into. And I'm not saying he didn't build it or he hasn't bounced back strong and they haven't built something special since that. But that 1-28 is on your resume. That's crazy. I've never heard of a college basketball team going 1-28.
It's a lot of losses.
Man, if he stayed terrible, I would find. But that's the anomaly. That's the anomaly on his resume. I don't want to get.
No, they all have anomalies, right? They all have like those. They, like in my opinion, if I was to pick a coach, Coach Tang, Jerome Tang would be at the top of my list, right?
And why? Tell me about that. Tell me about why you would have Coach Tang.
Now, just from all accounts, man, the guy's a great person, a great leader, a great basketball mind, and Michigan needs all three right now. Like Michigan could go out and get a guy that's a really great basketball coach. There's plenty of them. You know, I like the coach at Colorado State runs elements of the Princeton and different concepts, many different concepts within his offense. And I really love what Colorado State does offensively. I think he would be a good hire, right, from a basketball perspective. But I can't speak to his culture and his but that guy, he's a former pastor, started as a high school coach in Texas. Worked his way up 19 years at Baylor, won a national championship as an assistant at Baylor, helped develop all of those guards and good players that have come through there over the years. And he's, started to build something really, really good at Kansas State. I just think what he brings to the table, Michigan desperately needs right now. Somebody's going to bring good people. You always hear people, you win with good people, right? You win with good people. And so I think he's going to, with him being the person that he is, he's going to bring in good people into the program, and that can only lead to good things.
Yeah, I think some of the holes that we see, I'm going to do the same thing with Jerome that I just did with Amir. Like, I think you got to contextualize some of the knocks.
Yes.
So he was an assistant for 18, 19 years at Baylor. And why? When you talk to other coaches, you get a feel for why. So Devin, you can identify with this. All those years that Tony Elliott, and what's my man that's Oklahoma head coach at Oklahoma now?
Yeah.
The defense
coordinator. He's great defense coordinator.
Venables.
Brent Venables, right, yeah. Right. All those years, those dudes were at Clemson as assistants, and they were turning down jobs. Mm-hmm. They were turning down, mid-tier jobs, waiting on. I mean, and maybe Tony kind of missed his window. I mean, no disrespect to Virginia, but he was waiting on a Power 5 conference job. Like he wasn't going to take, and so maybe he missed a better job than Virginia. But that was the point. These guys were waiting for the perfect opportunity because they were in a great spot. I mean, they winning titles. At UVA, they're getting paid well at UVA. They don't have to jump on the first job. And you talk to coaches in the profession, they said Jerome Tang was doing the same thing. He could have been had a mid-major job for years, turning them down left and right until a high major came and said, "Okay, Coach Tang, here you go, Kansas State." And his first year, when he gets there, they go to the Elite Eight, and 3 points are all that separate him from Dusty. All right. I mean, they won. Dusty and them won by 3 points. They go on to the Final Four. Meanwhile,
incredible game too.
Yeah, Kansas State gets put out, and you're not talking as much about him this year because they're 8-10 in the Big 12, but 8-10 in a harder Big 12. Because now Houston's not in Conference USA no more. Now Houston's in the Big 12, and Houston's number 1 in the country. And BYU is in the Big 12, and they top 20. Yeah. And not only that, now you lose 2 of your best. So you're a double-digit scorer and a primary ball handler. You lose him in the exhibition game. And then your big man, who was a key contributor on the Elite 8 team last year, he gets kicked out in October for an off-field incident. So doesn't that make that 8-10 look different to you?
Yeah.
Daniel, so that's why you got to give context to some of the knocks that you see on these guys.
I got a question for you, Daniel. I got a question for you. When Michigan offers you a cool $4.5 million to coach Michigan, are you leaving Droppin Dimes? Are you sticking with that? I'm just asking you because what I mean. Are you sticking with us here at Droppin Dimes, or are you just gonna be done with us and then we're gonna have to critically like rip you apart every time you make a mistake? I'm just asking.
Now listen, I love y'all, man, and I do the show. I do correspondence with y'all every week, but that's my dream job.
Daniel's gone. Sam. We might lose Daniel.
I hear you. So let's get into what these dudes bring to the table from an X's and O's perspective. Because you mentioned Nico Medved is very interesting to me because I see shades of John Beilein, and I think there's great appeal to that. But I think it's important to contextualize that too, because do you want the Beilein that Michigan got when he came, or do you want the Beilein that he evolved into at Michigan, right? And I kind of think Nico is more into the on the side of what Beilein evolved into. I got to watch him more and talk to more coaches. But when Beilein got here, he was run a set. You know, if you got time, hey, we're gonna keep trying to run a set. If they blow it up, they blow it up. When BA and Val and Jeff Meyer got in, they run a set. And then if the set didn't work, let's say it blew up, now we're gonna spread you out. We're gonna clear the floor, and we're gonna let our playmakers see if they can make a play. It became more wide open after the first set. So he still had his stuff, but man, they're gonna run a ball screen. I mean, there was no ball screen in offense before those guys made it. There was no, freelance and we're gonna ISO and let a guy go to work. There was none of that before 2010. After 2010, it was more of a meshing and a melding of things. There's a great quote from Keith Dambrot, right? Who kind of likened it to, he said, you got soccer. I think he said, you got soccer coaches and then you got like football guys, soccer guys and football guys. And the soccer guys are more like, soccer's more conceptual, more open read and react. Whereas, football is more set driven. It's kind of the analogy that he made. And I thought that was very, very descriptive of what we saw Beilein be at the beginning, and then to kind of talk about what he evolved into. And that is, again, what I think you have in Nico Medved, but need to see him more. And then the other piece of it, Daniel, is does he bring those other things to the equation that you're going to want to see from a coach at this level, from a recruiting and NIL engagement standpoint? Does he check those boxes too? I think that's one of the interesting questions about Nico Medved.
Yeah, I think that would be probably the biggest questions with him. When you watch his offense, I've pretty much watched every basket they've scored this year. And they run a lot of the Princeton point and chin concepts is very free. And I run those I run the Princeton offense with my 8th graders. So watching him do that and watching him run it at a higher level with a few more variations was actually fun to watch. I actually kind of wrote some stuff down I'm going to take back to my 8th graders tonight. But you're right. If Michigan fans want someone that's going to run something close to what the offense is going to look something close to what Beilein did here, Medved would be your guy. Like he's going to great spacing. They're going to run to the 4-out 1-in spots. It's going to flow into 5-out motion with back cuts and screens and 3. It's going to be fun to watch, right? It's not going to look as structured as say Iowa State's offense, right? Look at Devin. So
I'm a basketball guy. I like basketball. I don't know what you're talking about, bro.
Devin, you're
too smart for me. You're too smart for me. I'm telling you, I'm just kick it to me. I'm a shoot, drive, kick. What you're killing me, Daniel. You're too smart for us. Me and Sam sitting there looking like this.
Yeah, no, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds with the X and O's. But if Michigan wants someone that's going to, as far as on the court X and O's, similar to Coach Beilein and that success in that era, then Medved, then that guy, he's pretty close to what Coach B was doing. I know Amit down at USF, they run more of a 5-out, spread you out, kind of beat you off the dribble, high pick and roll, more of a pro style offense as far as some of their concepts. And it's more similar to Juwan's, right? It's going to be a lot of movement and timing stuff into okay, our final action is going to be this high ball screen. Or
so tell me if you can get with this. What, and I don't pretend to have seen them a ton, but I wonder if you see a lot of the 5-out stuff. But it sounds like when he wants to, he'll run a set when he wants to get a guy a shot.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Or if he wants to get his big man the ball, he could run a set to do that. So
yes.
it's not like it's just total, just, hey man, we gonna it's total read and react.
No.
Like he's gonna run some stuff too. But it's like, okay, I want to get us something. That's when I'll run something. It's kind of my impression of Amir.
And this 5-man is his use of the 5-man is very versatile as well. Like you watched him play the big blind head kid is going to bring the ball up a lot. He's going to initiate handoffs and different actions, and it makes you in today's game, it makes you a lot more dangerous. And I think his offense and with the talent he's recruited and developed within his program fits well into that offense. Now, can he duplicate that at Michigan? He's going to have to go out and get players.
So what about Coach Tang? See, so now it's tough. It's tough for you to, like, if you watch Iowa, and it was one of the things, the Iowa game last night, and they kept making a thing out of them having more turnovers than assists. What the dude who's going to be his primary ball handler was lost for the season. Like, he don't have a true point. How do you think that's going? Like, I feel like you gotta put that out there. Like, I mean, you're giving half the story.
I think,
go ahead.
Those are two, Coach Tang and Coach Raheem, just watching their system, watching their players play. Guard play won't be a problem as far as the assist to turnover ratio, how much his offense turn the ball. Once he has better players in the system and he actually has his guys in the system, that offense will look a lot like what Baylor's offense looks like. You know what I mean? It's going to be very guard heavy, guard oriented with highlights and spectacular plays because Coach Tang was a high school coach in Texas. I tell people the story all the time. Back in the day, Juwan Wagner scored 100 points in high school, right? That same night, Coach Tang had a high school player score 100 points. So he plays a very when he has his guys, he's going to play a very fast-paced, entertaining style of basketball. I think you saw that last year with Kansas State, and it's a little bit different than say Iowa State's coach or Colorado State's coach, but it's still very entertaining.
So, what do you think of what Dusty runs?
I like it, but I always get skeptical of coaches who overuse one action. They use the Spain action a lot, where they're basically one big is screening for the other after he said a screen action that ends up in the lob. Basically, is the shortest way that I can explain it on Dimes, right? And they use that action a lot. And when they're playing against teams and it gets going, it looks good. It's very entertaining. But can you do that in the Big Ten? That's my only question. And I've always had these questions after playing in the Big Ten. Devin, I know you know how it is playing against defenses in the Big Ten. They're all going to be. They know what you're doing before you walk on the field. And the same thing in basketball. So
Minnesota, all they do is play cover four. It's terrible.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
So it's one of those things where the style of play in the conference. The coaches normally don't bend the conference to their will. It normally works in the reverse, right? So
the one coach that did in football, obviously Coach Rod kind of shifted everything, but the first coach to have real success with it was Urban Meyer, where he came in and he kind of tricked everybody into thinking that he was finesse. And we've talked about that obviously extensively, but he was still had that power mode of that you have to have in the Big Ten. So I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I'm curious your overall thoughts. Is there a deficit with any of the guys that we mentioned? Because I know Devin got to bounce here really quick, so I want to get a Mayan Arbor promo in here shortly. But do you look at any of the guys that we have discussed? Dusty May, Jerome Tang, Amir Abdur-Rahim. These are guys that we know are in the mix. Bryce Drew, even. I think so. I think if I can gauge the fan perspective, the guy that they just seem to like totally just they don't want to see any part of Bryce Drew. I haven't figured out totally why. Because I feel like they kind of gave up on him too quick at Vanderbilt. Like he had recruited an all-time class at Vanderbilt, and Darius Garland gets hurt. And what do you expect? I mean, that dude's a lottery pick. That's going to affect the fortunes. And then they fired, and then he leaves, and Jerry Stackhouse inherits some of those guys. But he had a bunch of all those guys got drafted in like
22 games with those guys, right?
And like, come on, man. so anyway, they don't like Bryce Drew for whatever reason.
And he's a good coach. He's a great coach as well. I think the questions with him is the level of resources he has at Grand Canyon compared to everybody else. He won't have that big of a advantage at Michigan.
So I'm curious though. I'm throwing Nico. I don't know where Nico Medved fits in the conversation, but I figure he's a guy that they're vetting because Joe Parker was former associate AD at Michigan, retiring AD at Colorado State. They have a real connection there. It's easy to see the sort of similarities to Beeline. The thing that you would wonder about is how it would translate recruiting wise. So all of these guys have some question marks.
Yeah.
But my question to you, Daniel, is the basketball guy. Are there any guys that you look at and you say, and even some guys we haven't talked about, like I'm going to be checking on Darian DeVries tonight. That's a lot. That's one of the guy that all the analytics guys really like from Drake.
Check him out as well.
Right. And so, but are there any guys that you look at and you say, man, that is just a huge deficit? Like this, Michigan would be falling all over themselves if they hired this guy. Like this would just be a bad hire if Michigan made it. Do you see any of these guys that sort of fit that? I mean, being totally honest. And if you think so, let me know.
Just thinking about it, no. It like, to be honest, I'm coming from 8-24. It's hard to look at some of these guys that are having success at other schools and be like, I wouldn't want that guy. Now, like you said, they all have issues that, do you think that might not translate well to Michigan? But as far as just a guy that I was just like, oh, no, hell no. I don't really see any candidates like that. Not yet. I think when you're reaching for a guy that coaches somewhere like I see people mention Coach Kelsey at College of Charleston. I think that's just a little bit too big of a leap from College of Charleston to the University of Michigan, right? He would be skipping a level of basketball, in my opinion, going from the College of Charleston to Michigan. So that's just my opinion. You know what I mean?
Hey, how about this one? I got to throw this out. I want Devin Gardner's opinion on this before we go. This is nowhere in the stratosphere of consideration.
However,
what about my girl Dawn Staley? What you think about that, Devin Gardner?
I would be in. I would be 100% in. I think Dawn Staley
is what all these basketball coaches I've been talking. Like, come on, man, that's ridiculous.
I think Dawn Staley got a unique ability to relate and get what she needs and wants out of players, and it's not. I don't think it's a woman thing. I think it's like any human, like the way she speaks, the way she carries herself. I think that she really can because come on, dog. Like she hits my come on, dog. We're not doing that. You know what I mean? And when you can speak and relate like that, I don't think that the sex barrier is there, especially for Dawn Staley. I think that it's a reach and all that and whatever, but man, I would be on board and fully supportive of it.
I'm gonna just say this: there's a reason why Becky Hammon is not coaching in the NBA anymore. It's not because she just got a better job at the there's a barrier. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's sex. I don't know what it is, but because it's also been done with Nancy Lieberman-Klein, right? She coached with the Mavericks and coached with the Mavericks D-League team for a long time, right? And never really became a head coach at the NBA level or got a chance at the college level. And I don't know what it is. They're X and O wise, there's no difference. They're great X and O wise, and
I think
because I've seen guys that have played for the
different though. I think it's different. I think college and the NBA is different. You got dudes that you making 80 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's different in the NBA. I think in college, especially because of, like I said, the way she speaks, the way she carries herself, but her success. I think young hoopers respect Dawn Staley. Males. Now, I'm not talking about just like girl. I'm talking about male hoopers. They respect Dawn Staley, and I think that she will really have a shot.
She is. Look at
Dawn. I coach 8th graders, so I know for a fact they don't know who she is.
But guess what, Daniel? When she walk in that room, she commands. They gonna know who she is, or they're gonna be outside.
And see,
she's not playing no games. I'm not playing no games with y'all. Oh, I'm a lady. All right, you go find somewhere else to play, and we'll find somebody that understands. You know what I mean?
That's the point. And you just nailed it. See, in the NBA, it wouldn't be as easy for Becky Hammon to curate her roster as it would be for Dawn to curate hers. Right?
She
Okay.
got a Gucci hoodie on.
Right. And listen, so she's out on the recruiting trail. It'd be very easy to gauge who's going to respond to her and who's not.
Yeah.
Right.
Like she's picking her team. Her team is not being picked for her like it would be for Becky Hammond in the NBA.
100%.
But she'll be in the
with little control, right? Yeah. These dudes making all kinds of money with guaranteed contract. You can't do nothing with that.
And let's be honest, she'll be in the same position as any other Michigan coach that they hire, right? Facing the same challenges. And South Carolina, probably has a much bigger recruiting budget for women's basketball than she'll get at Michigan for men's basketball. So let's just once again,
players that get behind
consider the success and the resources.
I think players that get behind that, man. I think players that come to Michigan and get behind that because that's history, man. That's like something you're a part of something super special when you do that. Like this the first time ever. Like it's gonna be that would be. I think it would be great.
I'm telling you right now, they can hire Michael Jordan. If they not paying, they're not coming.
If they hire Michael Jordan got Jordan, and you know they want to wear them Jordans.
If
they hire Michael Jordan, people come.
They not paying, them kids not coming.
See, rarely it's like impossible for me to see eye to eye with DG because he like 6'5", so we don't really see eye to eye. Right, but we see eye to eye, my brother. Dawn Staley would kill it. And I know I know all the basketball coaches that I talk to about it. They tell me, man, that's ridiculous. They think it's the dumbest idea ever, right? I mean, they are very much on the Daniel Horton side of things. All the basketball coaches I talk to. So I want to make sure that I represent their opinions of spending some time around Dawn, is watching her from afar and then spending time with her, and being around her presence and her aura. I'm with Deb. Like, I have no doubt she would be able to recruit.
No doubt.
I have no doubt she would have players who respond to her. Right? The bigger question would be, would the reception be there from the fan base? Like, you expect to have your fan base and the coaching fraternity to be supportive. And I'm not convinced that would be the case within Michigan's fan or any other men's basketball fan base. And I'm not convinced that would be the case in the men's basketball fraternity.
And honestly, Sam, I don't think there are many other women coaches that I look at and say, yeah, they'll be able to hit a home run. I think this is unique to Dawn Staley. Like what she's been able to do, who she is, how she carries herself, like press conferences, everything. I just think that people, young players, they'll be able to resonate with that. And I will hoop for her. I'm just telling you. Dawn, you can coach me. I ain't that good. I'm getting back in shape, though. We talked about that earlier. I'm getting back in shape. And do I get to play basketball, Sam? Do I get my years for basketball? I know I play football Division I. Do I get to play basketball? Because I will go out there and die for loose balls for you, Dawn.
What about if that's the case? Why not throw Gino Oriema's name out there then? Like if we're talking hypothetical.
Gino, I want Dawn. I'm not diving on loose balls for Gino.
Gino the Godfather.
Well, I'm not diving on loose balls for Gino.
But see, I think that Dawn would move the meter.
Okay.
More than Gino Oriema. I really do. I know Devin has to get out of here. So let Ben, our friends at Destination Mayan Arbor, our proud sponsors, they bring to you the Mayan Arbor series where we take people on a tour through our 5 favorite places, or 5 of our 5 favorite places.
I'm diving on loose balls for you,
Washington County. Can you drop that track for us, Ben Krasner? So the episode of Mayan Arbor that is set to drop, it is the final edits are being put on it right now. We went to 5 of our favorite places in Washington County. This is the concept that our friends at Destination Mayan Arbor, the local tourism bureau for Washington County, came up with. They said, hey, we want people to know about the places to go, places to eat, places to stay, events coming to town. What better way to do that than have ambassadors take people around? So Will Johnson, we did an episode with him. And then the Droppin Dimes crew did one as well. That is the QR code if you want to find out about the places to go and stay and eat and the events coming to town. Scan that QR code. It is a great resource for all things Ann Arbor. But I'm going to show you right now the trailer for the upcoming episode of Mayan Arbor. Here we go. As I know that. See, man, he only staying around for this. He said, I got to be out of here at 17. But he's staying around for this because he wants.
I got 2 more minutes.
I know. Here we go.
Who is this?
How you doing?
You don't know you? Easy with the benefits, baby.
Ooh, easy.
What's going on, kid?
Good.
You all right?
Hen dog.
Get
you some of that hen dog.
Give him 17. The Michigan legend is going down. The quarterback is going down.
He's a quarterback. He's supposed to win.
Hey, I'm a quarterback too, Sam. It's a different sport. This is a different sport.
Nice throw, Daniel. Nice throw. Oh! Man.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good decision makers. It's not a lot of good decision makers.
What do you congratulations? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was doing it with my mouth. That's with him. All right.
I did a And so, folks, the plan is for that to drop tomorrow.
Come on, Sam. I got to tell the people something. Before I go.
My God.
Before I go, I just want to apologize on behalf of me, Sam, and Daniel, that it's taking a little longer to get this thing together. But you got to get every angle of the beatdown that I put on Sam and Daniel. You have to. And we got to curate it perfectly so that you, the viewer, you, the fans of Droppin Dimes, can see the technique and the flawless ability. You heard on the clip, they weren't even on the same page. Daniel said, oh, the quarterback's going down. And Sam said, well, he's supposed to win. He's a quarterback, right? So they don't even have cohesion in their unit. They're similar to what we saw from Michigan basketball this past season. And for me, I was solo. I was on my team by myself, so I had great cohesion and I dominate them. So, but the thing is, the point of this is you want to see every angle, and they got to get that perfectly done, right? So just be patient. Be patient. You're going to see me throw a football again. You know, I know you ain't seen it in a while. But I'll be back to throw football very soon. Mayan Arbor, brought to you by Destination.
Hey, and let me tell you on your way out. So you see Devin winning at Folding Warehouse. He did. You also see him fighting my style at Bivouac. So I go and get my.
Damn, you lying for no reason. You ain't got a chance to sit on the throne of lies. You are a liar.
It's on tape. Fight my style. I go up here. I get my stuff at Bivouac.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Fight my style. I went and got. He went and got the same thing I bought.
Sam, the Zamundi Prince was biting your style.
Oh yeah, he was like, "It looks so cold, Sam. I got to get it too."
Hey,
it's on tape.
Y'all see my. Hey, straight from the motherland, right there. You see that? Painting? Straight from the motherland. That's right.
The boy got his own money.
Boy got his own money. Love y'all. Love my Droppin Dimes family. In the comment section, y'all always doing a good job. One dude almost got slapped and blocked, but we're gonna let that one go. I'm gonna go ahead home and get out of here.
Go ahead on. I gotta get Daniel, get his part shots on this basketball thing real quick. All right, appreciate you, DG. That episode is gonna drop tomorrow. Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, Ben, drop that track one more time, man. shout out to Golden Limo, because Golden Limo, all of our tours around Washington County, we ride on that Golden Limo party bus, and it's a lap of luxury. I mean, they deck it out with the San Pellegrino waters and the zero sugar drinks, and I mean, if you want, alcoholic beverages, you can have that in there as well. It is the way to travel, whether you're doing the party bus thing or you're doing the tour bus thing. We know the Michigan football, Michigan basketball, Michigan athletics, they ride on those golden tour buses when they're going different places, whether it's airport transport or whatnot, or if you're doing executive transport. Like I'm traveling to the airport all the time, got a bunch of equipment. They come to the house, they're there 15 minutes early. They pick up all my equipment, load it up, unload it. When I arrive at the airport, my destination, I have a car there waiting to pick me up as well. Our friends at Golden Limo handle your ground transportation from beginning to end, and it's second to none. The standard that is been set by Sean Duvall at Golden Limo is absolutely golden. So if you have any ground transportation needs in southeastern Michigan, going or coming, let Golden Limo.
Hey, Sam, in the chat say you got your pinky up drinking San Pellegrino.
Hey man, I'm a recent adopter of that. But I got to get so you said Jerome Tang is your guy.
Yes, sir. That
is your preference. You went into some of the aspects of why. All right. Now, can you, as you lay it out and you compare him, you gave me the why you like him. Can you compare head to head why you would like him better than some of the other? Like, what would he have in your eyes over a Dusty? What would he have in your eyes over in Amir? What would he have in your eyes over some of the other guys that we mentioned, guys that we haven't necessarily heard yet, like a Nico Medved? What would he have over those guys that makes you say this would be the guy for you?
So for me, I think they're all great coaches. They all are different in their own way as far as what they run and how they execute with their visions for their program. But I think with Coach Tang, man, it's just out of all the people that I've spoke to about all of these different coaches, right? Like I have friends that are assistant coaches at the Division I level, and we speak about all of these guys. And unanimously, no matter if I'm talking to a guy that just met him in passing, a guy that coached with him, a guy or players that played for him, the first thing they mention, Sam, is how great of a person he is. And I think that's something and not saying that Juwan is, because Juwan was great to me and my family when we came around, always personable, very respectful, right? But some of the things that you hear about, you would never get from a Jerome Tang. I think at this moment, as much as we need a coach that's gonna bring in X and O Y's and gonna have us competing on the court, we need somebody who's gonna come in and kind of rebuild the image and the reputation of Michigan basketball. And I think he's the guy that's gonna unify the alumni base. He's gonna be great in the community as far as dealing with the Mayan Arbor community and the surrounding areas. He's gonna be great with the NIL, with like we spoke about earlier, getting out and being personable and getting people to invest in the program. Like he's a former pastor. Like I can't stress that enough. And he's not one of those guys that like wears it on the sleeves. But I can give you an example. So I spoke to one of his former players, and he said, "Hey man, as much as he is who he is as a Christian and a God-fearing man, he allows you to be yourself, but under respectful parameters. You're not going to hear about, like you heard about with other coaches at the NBA level or even the college level, where their faith becomes a divisive aspect of the locker room or the program. So he's just one of those guys, man. Like he checks all the boxes. He checks all the boxes for us.
Even the X's and O's box.
Even X's and O's boxes. Like most coaches are only gonna run what they're capable of running with the guys that they have, especially at that level. So, like, I know a lot of people are enamored with Iowa State coaches, their X's and O's. But after watching, they run a lot of horns, just a lot of basic horns and the staggers and to roll and replace actions. That stuff is really good as well. So it's all these coaches run versions of the same very similar offenses. And most of them end in high ball screens anyway. So it's one of those things where, like, I've watched a lot of film on these guys, but I'm more focused on who's going to rebuild the culture, who's going to rebuild the locker room. You went first.
So I see. I think that you get that, and listen, I think Jerome Tang would be a really good hire. But if I had my druthers, if I had my preference, it'd be Dusty or Amir. Those would be, and admittedly, part of it is I know Dusty.
Yeah.
Like I think Dusty brings the discipline that comes from growing up in Bob Knight's program.
Mm-hmm.
I think he brings the ability to relate that comes with youth. I think with his age.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he brings the experience of coaching all over the country at multiple levels. So he's been he cut his teeth at Eastern. He went to Murray State. He works his way up to being an assistant at Florida before he gets the FAU job. People say, well, he really was kind of mediocre for the first few years. Okay,
Yeah.
but then he turned the corner. Now they say, oh well, guess what? Purdue lost. They got upset by Fairleigh Dickinson, so he doesn't have to get by Purdue. Okay, but it wasn't like, okay, he got to the Sweet 16 and stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't like, okay, so he goes head to head with Jerome Tang's team, and Coach Tang, great, really good team, really good coach, but they won. They won that game, and then they come back this year, and there were some setbacks, there were some injuries, but they beat Arizona, they beat Texas A&M. I just think, I think Dusty has the familiarity with the Big Ten, the familiarity with the program, with the area, the experience from coaching all over the country, the experience that coaching at multiple levels that allows him to check it a lot of boxes. And I feel the same way about Amir. And one of the things that is so enticing to me is I really think that he gets it from the standpoint of, man, you got to get out there and you got to hustle. You got to hustle these relationships up. The relationships with the fan base, the relationships with the alumni base, the relationships with the donors. Like, he's been doing that. And then we know he can, like, this dude can really recruit. Like, he got Anthony Edwards to Georgia. Basketball. Georgia basketball. Like, you get a dude like that to come play basketball there. Like, I just think that their age profile and their ability to engage players, and then their ability to offer freedom and structure. This is one of the things that I wanted to harp on when you were talking about Amir. Like, he's 5 out. It's a lot of, you 5 out. Let a guy attack. He can run a set to get his guy, get his shooter a shot, get his big man the ball. He can run sets.
Yeah.
But he's not set driven. He's not gonna come down and run, be like maybe Beeline was at the beginning, but evolved, or how Izzo kind of just is. He gonna run 50 sets and that be that. He's not that, but he's not totally the opposite end of the spectrum as well. He can throw some more structure in there when it's needed to get his guys the looks that he feels like need to get looks.
Yeah, like I said, watching them play, I just don't know how much of that will translate to the Big Ten and the style of play in the Big Ten. That would be my only concern. Can he recruit? Obviously. Can he develop players? Obviously. The guys he brought with him from Kennesaw State are playing really well right now, right? But like I said, can that be duplicated at Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Even when Michigan hired Coach Beeline, my question was, does that 1-3-1 as much as you ran it, does it translate to this conference and this style of play? And it didn't initially. The second half of his tenure, he used it more of as a wrinkle, and it was a lot more effective, right?
Yeah. 2010 was a metamorphosis for John Beeline. With the hiring of that all new staff, they incorporated more Jimmy's and Joe's based stuff. So we're gonna run a ball screen and say go to work. We're gonna play man-to-man defense. Right.
A lot of 2-guard high structure where, like you said, it creates spacing for guys to go to work.
Yeah. So it became, it's still structure. He's still gonna come down. They're gonna get into their stuff. He's gonna run a set, but it's not like he's gonna run set after set after set. And if they blow it up, you stuck. They had answers, like you said. Trey, just go be a ball player, right? You know what I'm saying? Go. Hey, Nick, Go be a ball player. There were times where it's like, hey, we're going to run some stuff at it. All those fails. Go be a ball player. He got to the point where he had the players that could do that, and then he will offer them the freedom to do that as well.
And that's why I think that's why Coach Tang is my choice, because he offers the best of both worlds. Like, you're going to get the recruiting, you're going to get the personality and the culture aspect of it, but you're also going to get the X and O coaching aspect of it. I don't know who else you've spoken to, but if you watch what he does at Baylor, it's not as structured or regimented as the Princeton, like at Colorado State, or the Horns at Iowa State, but it's not as free flowing or not as open as what USF is doing. So he's kind of in the middle of all the candidates that we've discussed. He's kind of, and he offers the best of both worlds. So,
hey man, hey, listen, I don't think he would be a bad choice at all.
Yeah.
My thing with him, and all these guys are going to be important who they hire, but with him especially, you would want a guy on your staff, like you would want to go get a guy that has roots in this area.
Don't do that, Sam.
To be on this, I think
we don't do that, Sam. We had this conversation. You don't waste a coaching spot on a guy to recruit a region of the country with 5.
I don't mean just recruit. I don't mean just recruit. No, I'm talking about all aspects. The Michigan is a unique place.
Yeah.
But to have some familiarity with Michigan, to have some familiarity with recruiting to Michigan, to have, even if you hadn't done it, you have some experience with what it's like, what it's going to take, right? To just have recruiting on east of the Mississippi. Me personally, if you weren't. And I'm not saying that from the standpoint that you just got to keep somebody from this.
You mean east of the southeast of them? Like, I'm trying to figure out where, because I don't mean to cut you off, Sam, but this is a common theme that comes up in this coaching search, right? He needs to have Midwestern ties. There's like 5 good players in the Midwest, Sam. Like with the Midwest, the Detroits, the Chicagos, the Clevelands, they don't produce talent like they used to. The talent is in the South and the Southeast and the West Coast.
I hear you, but you got right now, you got Trey McKinney from the state of Michigan, who's a 5-star guy. You got Darius Acuff, who's playing at IMG, but he's from Detroit. Like, you're gonna have some guys right here in this footprint that it helps you to have some sort of connection to. That's not the be all end all. And I'm not just saying you hiring just a recruiter. Michigan can ill afford to have a coach on the staff who can just coach, or a coach on staff who can just recruit.
Right.
I'm not sitting here advocating just for guys that are currently on staff. I think you got to look at them. But I would look at a guy like Val Jordan.
Yeah.
Val Jordan was a head coach twice.
Yeah.
He was part of building the culture here at Michigan. Val Jordan is working on TV right now. Like, I would look at that dude. Like, man, that would be an unbelievable assistant coach.
And I'm all about giving young coaches a chance as well. I'm looking at a guy like Chris Hunter, who's been in the program for 10 years. I'm not saying you make him your lead assistant, but if you got 4 or 5 positions on staff, this guy played in the NBA, high character guy, married, wife of 3, done it at every level, state champion in high school. Why not give him opportunity to begin his coaching career? I'm not saying he even wants it, but I know who else can better sell playing and being a student athlete at Michigan than the high character guy. A Ross School of Business degree, everything. So he checks, like, once again, another guy who checks all of the boxes.
Yeah. As you mentioned, Derek Hampton mentioned Sadi. Yeah, Sadi's been around.
Another guy.
Sadi he turned on the Western Michigan job twice. He was doing the Jerome Tang thing.
Yeah.
Like, waiting for the perfect opportunity. That's a dude who can coach. Right. So I didn't want to make it sound like I'm just sitting here saying, hey, you got to keep the guys that are currently on staff, or even that it has to be, but someone that fits that profile.
Yeah.
I think is important for a guy who has no ties. What I like about Jerome Tang, and the other thing that I like about Dusty, and the other thing that I like about Amir, is they have Power 5 experience.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I worry about with some of the other guys is, experience at this level, I think, is helpful. It doesn't exclude the other guys, but if we're comparing them to one another, it's one of the things that I like about those guys over some of the other guys that are mentioned. So,
hey Sam, if we end up with either one of those 3, I'll be celebrating at home.
Well, I'll tell you what, hey man, and listen, I'm gonna check into Nico because I think I'd be shocked if they aren't checking into Nico Medved.
Mhm.
I'd be very, very surprised. I have not heard his name yet,
Yeah.
which is why I haven't put it out there. But I'd be surprised if he weren't a guy that they're talking about or talking, back channeling. So checking on that, checking on some of the other mid-major names that are out there as well. Keep it locked over on the MichiganInsider.com. And we will, every guy that I put out there, trust and believe they are guys that are actually being discussed inside. I promise you. If you followed the football coaching search, I don't just make stuff up, just throw it out there for effect. And it'd be very easy to throw out some of the common names that are being talked about just to satiate, but I would be doing you a disservice if I threw out a name that I haven't actually heard yet. So I won't do that.
Is it true Dusty May was assistant for Coach Ramsey at Eastern?
That was his first assistant coaching job.
Man, I might have to. I might have met Coach May before because we used to go up there to hoop in the spring and summers when we weren't hooping in Michigan. We'd go when Ramsey went over to Eastern. We would go over there and ball. So I probably met him before. I gotta check on that.
Yeah, Chris Collins is an interesting one. Like I'm asking around about. I mean, the dude is taking them to the tournament, taking Northwest. Like I think you got to give. I'd be surprised if he weren't getting a look too.
Your culture would be. I think we've tried that before though, right? Like. Haven't we done the Duke tree thing already with Coach Amaker? Haven't we tried that before?
Yeah,
I know it's different people, but at different times. But as from a culture standpoint, right? We've tried that before.
Yeah, I hear you. On the way out, folks, I want to remind you our great sponsor at Destination Ann Arbor. Your tour guides to all things Ann Arbor. If you're coming to town, or even if you live in town and you want to know what's going on, events that are coming to town, great places to eat or stay or visit, they're your tour guides to all things Washtenaw County. And as the weather turns, as the seasons turn, you get into spring and summer, there's so many great opportunities in this area. I mean, Washtenaw County, whether you're an outdoors person, you're an avid golfer, you want to get out and check out sporting events. There's so many great places to eat, so many great options right here in Washtenaw County. Destination Ann Arbor is your tour guide to all of those things. You can check them out at annarbor.org. That's annarbor.org, or scan that QR code. Be sure to support our great sponsors because they are what makes Droppin Dimes go, right? And that's the same thing with our great sponsor, Golden Limo. Second to none when it comes to ground transportation services in southeastern Michigan. You're traveling here or abroad, they are your tour. They handle your travel from beginning to end. They'll pick you up at your spot, drop you off at the airport. When you land in Atlanta or LA or DC, they have a car set up for you to get picked up there. And then the same thing in reverse. That is the Golden Limo difference. You can find them at goldenlimo.com. So, folks, be on the lookout for that Mayan Arbor episode. It's coming very, very soon. Until next time, thanks for watching another edition of Steady Droppin Dimes.